Well, a good evening to you. Great thanks for joining us. This is Channel 1 News, our Monday edition. And of course, the question on the minds of so many Kenyans is, are there contraband sugar everywhere in the country? In the last 2 days, tons of sugar have been nabbed in different parts of the country. Of course, the latest being in Kitale this evening at around 6:45. About 100 tons of sugar nabbed in Kitale. We have the details lined up for you, including the latest war against the gambling machines being officiated by the Ministry of Interior. And of course, we'll also have that conversation deeper with one of the people concerned, and that's Samika Hugh, the chairperson, counties and that is Counties Amusement and Gaming Society, and we'll be looking at the war against gambling. But most importantly, what is the government fault, or what is the fault of those investing in these businesses? This will be our conversation tonight. But first things first, here are the highlights.
Today, we are pleased to present 3 young men, Jedrick Mugo, Osborne Namai, Maxwell Omondi, to their family and friends and relatives.
3 Kenyans held in an Ethiopian jail finally released. Several suspects arrested. Tons of sugar netted as police cast their nets wider in ongoing crackdown on contraband sugar. And opposition leader Raila Odinga endorses ongoing war on graft, invites audit on his wealth. Wilson Mushara is a sign language interpreter. My name is John Jacob Curia. A warm welcome to this bulletin. Now we begin tonight with news that 3 Kenyans held in jail for the last 3 years in Ethiopia after a botched job venture have been released. Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Monica Juma, who presented the detainees to the families, said it will now be mandatory for all recruiting companies to be licensed as the government moves to protect the citizens from unscrupulous agents and employers. Rose Gakuo begins our coverage tonight with that story.
Free at last. Tears of joy poured freely as these 3 reunited with their loved ones from who they had been separated for 3 years for offences committed separately. Jedrick Mugo, Osborne Namai and Maxwell Omondi have been serving jail terms in Kalit Maximum Prison, Addis Ababa, for alleged telecommunications fraud.
Okay, nilikuwa nimetumwa Ethiopia kufanya kazi. Mimi na ni fundi wa mitambo. Tuko na install satellite equipment kule Ethiopia. Sa kampuni ambayo nafanyia kazi ikanituma nikaelekea Ethiopia kuweka mitambo. Kwa harakati hizo askari wakuja wakanishika. Baadaye tukauliza vipi tunakamatwa, kwa nini tunakamatwa na kuna leseni? Wakasema mwenye kazi hana leseni, ndio maana yake tukakuja tukakamatwa.
The trio were among 5 Kenyans arrested in Ethiopia after traveling to the country for work in 2014. One of them died in prison after developing respiratory complications.
I'm really grateful, and as the minister said, wherever there'll be anything we want to do in future, we have to be careful so that we don't make decisions that will maybe complicate our lives again.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be back, and hopefully this experience is an eye-opener for other people.
But while the release of these 3 brings to an end the agony their loved ones suffered, questions still remain unanswered.
When the embassy and the government here initiated the process, it took quite a long time because they said they cannot do anything until the court process ends. So it took 3 years and 1 day for the court process to end, and the government came in, and it took just a few months to let us go.
According to Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Monica Juma, the government is keen to end the suffering of its citizens in the hands of dishonest foreign employers. It will now be mandatory for all recruiting companies to be licensed.
One of the things that we are doing is to register recruitment agencies, because we realize that there's a large number of people that have been going around claiming their recruitment agencies. Now you have to be licensed so that we can trace back, you know, who is involved in the recruitment of people, of Kenyans.
The CES urging job seekers to be cautious in their endeavors, further calling on Kenyans to seek information from the ministry before embarking on overseas engagements. According to government records, 8 more Kenyans are still languishing in Ethiopian jails in similar circumstances. Juma outlined the government's commitment to safeguard its citizens.
We've always been asking Kenyans to get in touch with Foreign Affairs whenever somebody has been promised a job overseas, because we have the structures to verify the authenticity of those claims or those promises, so that we do not end up in a situation where you have been duped.
Those released, grateful for the assistance, hoping to begin life anew amid the harsh reality that it may not be as easy. The number of Kenyans seeking employment from foreign countries is on the rise, but concerns are also high of these individuals being shortchanged by unscrupulous dealers. The government now requiring all job seekers to do so through licensed agents. Rose Gakwa for Channel 1 NewsHour.
Fantastic, and of course good news of the rescue of the Kenyans. Now police in the coast region are on the hunt for 2 convicts who escaped from the Malindi GK prison under mysterious circumstances. Among those under investigations include prison warders who were who were manning the facility at the time of his escape, amid questions over how the suspects managed to leave the highly guarded prison without a trace. Deputy Commissioner of Prisons and Coast Regional Commander Joseph Mutevesi says Jacob Tembo Dache and Karisa Kahindi Katana, who were serving terms of between 10 and 15 years, escaped on foot moments after they were assigned their duties in the prison farms. A message reportedly from one of the suspects seen by journalists had listed several officers at the facility who they accused of using excessive force against prisoners.
So we have responded very, very quickly to carry out a thorough investigation on the circumstances surrounding this actual incident and take necessary and immediate measures against those we think may have done knowingly or unknowingly committed to take their security steps to avoid people escaping from their custody. We are carrying out a very thorough investigation to establish on what actually transpired, and if one of our officers were involved, we wish to take serious disciplinary measures.
And now opposition leader Raila Odinga now says he's ready to be subjected to a lifestyle audit as per the directive issued by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Speaking in Mombasa during the Orange Democratic Movement Party retreat, Raila further proposed the incorporation of international auditors in the ongoing war on graft.
The Orange Democratic Movement Party leader was in Mombasa to attend the party's National Executive Committee and Parliamentary Group retreat. The venue and the timing of the meeting coming on the heels of a perceived wind of change among ODM elected MPs in Coast who have openly supported the Deputy President William Ruto's 2022 presidential bid.
There's no confusion in our politics and in our country. What has happened is that our country and our politics have changed since the 9th of March.
And we are not here really to firefight. We are here to solidify and strengthen ODM as a party.
Raila, who officially opened the meeting, supported President Uhuru Kenyatta's directive that all public servants be subjected to a lifestyle audit, saying he was ready for the test as an individual.
Lifestyle audits on leaders is good for Kenya. We are in it fully. Personally, I'm ready for it.
The opposition leader urged the government to seek services of international audit firms and experts in the war against corruption.
So we asked the government to also hire services of other international agencies.
Speaking separately at the Makueni County Government Breakfast Meeting, Area Governor and Wiper Chairman Kivutha Kibwana assured the president that the party was ready to help him fight corruption.
When you ask for handouts, that's corruption. Because if you ask for handouts, you pressure the leadership to go and steal so that they can bring you handouts, because their salaries are not enough.
Kibwana, while supporting lifestyle audit for state officers, however, said the audit report should be made public to expose those who, under hand tactics, have overseen the loss of billions of shillings.
And when you don't declare anything in that lifestyle audit, if you don't declare, then that should be taken back by the state.
Samson Kitavi, Channel 1 News.
Secondary school heads have called on the government to enhance security across all boarding schools in the wake of increased security lapses. Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association chairperson Indimuli Kahe says such measures will create conducive learning environment besides ensuring the safety of students.
While drawing reference to this month's rape incident at the Moi Girls High School, Kenya Secondary School Heads Association chairperson Indimuli Kahi said student safety cannot be left to school boards alone.
Angalia hiyo ubakaji sasa imekuwa challenge katika mashule, na hii yote walimu wakuu bado hawapewi ile uwezo wa kuweza kupambana na mambo haya. Ningesema ile capacity building.
Kahi said there was need to critically look into the security personnel per student ratio to help ensure the students are safe within their learning institutions.
Maswali ambao yalitokea hivi juzi ni kwa nini shule ilikuwa na security watatu. Security watatu, sababu ni kuwa namba ya wale security wanatakana wawe kwa shule ambayo ina population fulani imewekwa tayari. Hatuwezi pita pale because itabidi uwalipe.
The head teachers also want CCTV cameras installed in all schools across the country. Early this month, Moi Girls High School was forced to close for a week after students were allegedly raped, sparking outrage over the student safety. For Channel 1 News, I am Edward Kabasa.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has vowed to sustain the ongoing crackdown on gambling machines and contraband goods in the wake of an outcry from stakeholders in the industry. Matiang'i, who oversaw the destruction of contrabands in the city's Dagoretti area, said illegal gaming has contributed to an increase in social ills among young people.
Hundreds of illegal betting machines and other contrabands went up in flames in Nairobi's Dagoretti sub-county as authorities intensified crackdown against the betting menace. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i ordering multi-agency teams to ensure the vice is eliminated, saying it has led to youth addiction to betting. The items were confiscated in the ongoing operations against contraband, with the Interior Cabinet Secretary warning those behind the illegal gambling that they will be prosecuted.
This is not business. Now, when people say that, we are doing a business to try and raise money, you are not engaged in any business, you are engaged in crime. Gambling, wherever it's allowed, even in our country, there is a law. It has got to be done in a regulated environment so that yule ambaye anaingia kwa a gambling unit ni mtu ambaye ako miaka and above, and it's an environment that can be inspected by the Betting and Licensing Control Board.
A similar exercise was conducted in Kiambu, where at least 600 betting machines were set ablaze. Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu saying that the exercise will continue until all the contrabands are wiped out.
Hatutaki kuona gambling katika Kiambu County ambaye inaharibu vijana wetu wadogo, inaharibu vijana wa shule, wanaanza kuiba mpaka pesa nyumbani.
But even as the government intensified the crackdown on devices it says has contributed to a host of social ills, County's Amusement and Gaming Society of Kenya chairperson Sami Kihyu says the exercise is in contravention of the law, accusing the government of ignoring a court order that stopped the crackdown.
It's a sad situation, and this tells me that the efforts that I've been trying to make to reach to the CS interior to find a lasting solution in this business. I think to me, when what happened today really killed my efforts of trying to reach out and trying to see the best way to work out on that. And so, in my own opinion, what I want to say is that this, whatever the CS is doing, may not help to solve the problem. It may actually now start creating now the actual illegal betting.
In Nyandarua County, thousands of bags of contraband sugar, among other goods, have been nabbed during a police raid at the National Cereals and Produce Board stores in Olkalau. The consignment is said to belong to an influential businessman who owns major retail stores in the region. Some of the sugar is indicated to have been packed by West Kenya Sugar Company. In yet another operation in Meru County, police recovered 3,000 bags of contraband sugar valued at millions of shillings after conducting a raid at Kanini Haraka Wholesale Shop in Makutano Shopping Center. County Commissioner Wilfred Nyagwanga says the sugar, which was imported from Brazil, was being repackaged into bags to indicate it was sourced from Zambia. Elsewhere, a section of leaders drawn from Wajir County have called on the Ministry of Defense and that of Interior to intensify border patrols along the Kenya-Somalia border following an increase in attacks by Al-Shabaab militants.
The few individuals that are using the militia are uncalled for, and we will use all means possible to bring the culprit to book.
Sorry, I want to appeal to the heads of our armed forces, the CS in charge of defense, the CS in charge of internal security, and the heads of all our apparatus to deal with these criminal elements ruthlessly.
Their sentiments come just hours after an improvised explosive device left 8 security officers dead in Bojigaras, Wajir County.
Obviously, again, how that sugar ends up in somebody's cup is still a question that the government obviously has to answer, and of course, as it puts to task the traders who are dealing with this product. But obviously, when we come back from the break, we'll be dealing with this gaming machines and the destruction by the Ministry of Interior. Concerns, obviously, by the stakeholders, the government is targeting the wrong people. Is it? We'll be back with that conversation in a few.
The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Imagine all the possibilities of the Mombasa-Nairobi Highway or Phase 1 of the SGR were straight line routes. The Mombasa-Nairobi Highway twists and turns with its many corners, goes downhill and ascends steep slopes. In contrast, the SGR runs on an almost straight line. So, back to my point. Comparing road and rail speeds and capacity between Mombasa and Nairobi, it is fairly obvious that the Madaraka Express freight service shall change the game.
Sin tener piedad. This week on KBC Channel 1.
That is more of a reason why we should not have the UPI. We should concentrate on lowering the taxes so that we can increase the investments.
Enough! I'm going to get out of here, and I swear I'll shoot whoever tries to stop me.
Don't be so stupid, girl. You pointed that once and you didn't do anything. You aren't capable of pulling the trigger. Because deep inside, you still want me, Elena. You still...
Nakumbuka sele dada alisema he's a jack of all trades. Yes. So mi sikumget, so nilimvako kama yeye ni lawyer. A lawyer!
Welcome back. You're watching Channel 1 NewsHour. National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi says Kenya's parliament has a lot to learn from the Chinese legislative system. Speaking after a meeting with Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference Chairman Wang Yang, Muturi said Chinese legislature has done well in incorporating the views of common citizens in policy formulations. He said this even as it emerged that the Chinese delegation made a case for review of laws governing the local business environment, as Eric Biegon now reports.
Wang Yang, who is on a 4-day tour of the country, visited parliament buildings, where he held bilateral talks with his host, the National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi. Wang and his delegation were here as part of the Memorandum of Understanding signed last year, when the Chinese National People's Congress Speaker visited the country. The CPPCC chairman's visit is particularly aimed at advancing cooperation between Nairobi and Beijing, as the Asian giant endeavors to boost development in Kenya through cooperation. This mission appears to be taking shape. Muturi disclosed that Kenya is benefiting from the ongoing relations.
You may be surprised that I pointed out to him that it's interesting that last year Kenya received over 60,000 Chinese tourists, while 10 years ago we could not even count on 5,000. So I think there's also, which is what I was emphasizing, there's need for people-to-people interaction. It helps one group and understand the cultures and traditions of the other, and you also...
He holds the view that Kenya's parliament can also benefit from assimilating particular aspects of Chinese governance structure.
But most interesting, they say they don't perform any legislative work, but they seem to have a lot of oversight of our government, and indeed almost even over the legislature, because they are deemed to be the people that consult with everybody to know what it is Mwananchi is saying. They discuss, they build consensus, and then pass it on to government, and then thereafter they keep watching what is happening, how government is implementing what they have agreed.
But part of the reason why the Chinese team, which also included prominent business people, was here, according to Muturi, was to push for a review of laws regulating the business environment.
Some of the concerns that he picked from the various Chinese business people operating in Kenya, more particularly with regard to, trying to continue modernizing our laws and regulations, especially with regard to the operation of the SGR. But we said, well, that's usually a matter that comes from the executive, and once they raise those concerns with the executive, then the executive, through their technical people, will see what it is that they need to do to make sure that the operations of everybody are smooth. Of course, we keep improving our business environment every now and then. So, and it's something that they also appreciate and agree with, that we have really improved on our business environment.
Wang and his team will meet President Uhuru Kenyatta on Tuesday, where they are expected to hold talks on future joint projects between the two countries. Eric Biegon reporting for Channel 1 News.
Reminds me that these gaming machines are actually most of them are from China. Maybe the relaxation of business rules includes these gaming machines, but of course we'll figure out in a few. But 3 suspects found in possession of contraband sugar have been released on bail. Dahir Ahmed Hussein, Mohammed Dahir Ahmed and Ahmed Sheikh Mohammed, who were arrested last week in the city's Islay estate, were released on a 2 million shillings bond or an alternative of 300,000 shillings cash bill. Ben Chumba has that report in our Scales of Justice segment.
In line with the ongoing government crackdown on contraband sugar across the country, 3 traders were Monday in the dock after they were found in possession of 2,000 bags of contraband sugar from Brazil. Dahir Ahmed Hassan, Mohammed Dahir Ahmed and Ahmed Sheikh Mohammed were charged with several counts, including repackaging and selling substandard sugar believed to be extremely harmful to human health. According to the prosecution, the suspects, who have been in remand for 2 weeks, allegedly repackaged the substandard sugar in local companies' packages before selling the same to unsuspecting Kenyans. They denied the charges before Milimani Senior Principal Magistrate Mother Mutuku, who released them on a 2 million shillings bond or an alternative of 300,000 shillings cash bail, pending the hearing of their case on 3rd September this year. Meanwhile, the High Court has banned police from arresting Kirinyaga businessman over the sale of contraband sugar seized in Ruiru a week ago. Justice Lucy Gitari granted Patrick Njiru Kuria a 200,000 shillings anticipatory bail and ordered the businessman to appear in court after 7 days when the case will be heard. Finally, suspects in the 468 million shillings fraud case at the National Youth Service will tomorrow know whether their bail application will be granted. Justice Edwin Ongundi will deliver a ruling following an appeal by the suspects challenging the decision by the magistrate court to deny them bail. Ben Chumba reporting for Scales of Justice.
Fantastic time for perspective, and of course focus tonight being the destruction of gambling machines by the Ministry of Interior, and particularly you've seen the Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i really hard on it, of course saying this gambling is a big problem, social problem rather, particularly for children. And the focus tonight of course is also on stakeholders on their part and what their concerns really are against this crackdown by government. But from the onset, let me state is that we had invited the government spokesman Eric Geraide, but unfortunately again he traveled out of the country today, and we also tried to get the Betting Control and Licensing Board on set today, but then again no confirmation just yet, so we were left with no choice but to proceed with the initial plan. And we have Sami Kahiu, who is from the chair Counties Amusement and Gaming Society. Thank you very much, Sami, for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
I want us to get right into this conversation. And of course, I hope, Jackie, we can have that story playing on one side of a set so that we can see the destruction that the Cabinet Secretary was presiding over. But what is your problem with the destruction that is being done by the Ministry of Interior?
We actually have 2 major problems. One is not following the laws as they're supposed to be. 2, you cannot give a communal punishment to people. He's come up with quite a number of allegations that I would want to say the best way would have been to deal with those ones who are breaking the law, but not to give a communal punishment to everybody. The number 2, again, there is always a process of the law to deal with the issues in this country, because we have our laws in place. And the best way is when you have somebody who is like, for example, the way he's saying, allowing children to play. I think the best thing is to arrest a person, confiscate the machine, take them to court, let them go through the due process of the law. And I think that would have been the best way to go about it. Because for us, we feel like we are not being treated fairly. When you look at these other competitors, the ones who are doing the online, betting,
yes.
there are quite a number of things to be done on that line as well. And instead of the government focusing exactly on what is supposed to be done, generally on betting industry, because we need to do an overhaul. When you look at the way things are being done in this country, there are quite a number of issues which we are agreeing. And that's why in numerous times we've tried to do letters and try to seek the audience of the CS, because I think if you can listen to us, you tell us where the problem is coming from. Then number 3, also the allegations that these machines are owned by Chinese. I think that is something that is falsely misconstrued by Kenyans, because the truth of the matter is these machines, members of my society. I really want to talk about members of my society in particular, because I don't want to talk about everybody. They are all Kenyans, and there's no any foreigner in my society.
How do you get these machines?
The machines are actually imported.
Where are they made?
They are imported in China, and some of them will bring parts and assemble them here. But the machines are brought in having paid the necessary taxes that are required.
Let me ask you a question, because obviously the general concern, particularly from the Cabinet Secretary and the greater deal of Kenyans, is the social ills associated with gaming and betting. From where you sit, is there a red flag from where you sit on the level and, the level at which Kenyans are betting daily? Is it a level of concern for you?
To be very honest with you, the way I said initially, I think there's great concern, not only from the gaming machines, but in the whole industry. There's a lot that we need to do to rectify and to do things right. The way we are advertising, the way things are done even online, we need to come up with a proper set of regulations. That's why I think for me, there's a regulator, I think the BCLB, who is actually supposed to be the right people carrying out the exercise, cautiously not to break the law, and doing it in a way that is not going to hurt Kenyans. Yes. You
insist your members are not breaking the law in terms of their operations.
Yes.
What are your members doing right that these other people are not doing right, so that we can be able to draw parallels?
Honestly, we have some internal regulations within the association, and we have a very strict code of conduct. And one of the things that we try to do is to promote what we call a responsible gambling. This entails protection of the underage and the vulnerable groups. When we talk about vulnerable groups, we talk about those people who have mental challenges and those ones struggling with addiction. When you look at on the other side, ours is real time. It's put there, and most of the time they are put in bars. Obviously, there are no kids going on to the bars physically, because ours is real time and they are physical. Then number 2, if they are kept in a premises, it's an enclosed premises with something blocking, making sure that whoever is passing outside cannot see what is happening inside. And somebody on the door to make sure that you control who is coming
What you're alluding to are the operations of a casino-like kind of betting.
Yes, and honestly speaking, it's allowed by the Constitution, and I think among the fundamental human rights, the government cannot stop what is provided for by the Constitution. It can only regulate. And what we're asking the CS to do, I think the crackdown will not solve the problem. The problem will be solved by either we wait for the conclusion of the case, or sit down with the stakeholders, those who are ready to do the business genuinely, and because we are ready to restructure our operations at any time when the government wants, and tell us exactly what do you want us to do. So that we can conform with all the requirements. We are already doing our best, even as a society at our own level. And beside again, knowing that there is a court case that is going on, a petition. The petitioner's properties are not supposed to be touched until the matter is concluded, which is almost actually, I think, until when the court can give direction. And if anything, if the CS and the chiefs and the DOs and the county commissioners feel anybody is breaking the law, I think instead of really subjecting Kenyans, poor Kenyans, to this kind of a mob justice kind of an action, a communal punishment, I think the best thing is to arrest the person and take them to court, not to destroy their property that is really bought with money that is hard earned.
Jackie, let me just have that story playing on split screen on one end as we continue with this conversation, because I want us to make small references to that story and what you're seeing there, the destruction of these machines in Kawangware. But you and I know, particularly in these informal settlements, and you go to these places, you're looking at Kawangware, you're also looking at places like Kayole or wherever they are. At every point, at every corner, you find these gambling machines. My question for you would be, are you saying these are not your members?
Majority are not my members.
And what problem do you have with their gambling machines being destroyed?
most of them that are, it's what we call communal punishment. That's my problem.
Yeah.
When you are collecting the ones of that belongs to these foreigners who are here illegally, you also collect. You don't tell your people whom are you supposed to target, because for me, if the CS is targeting those who are allowing children directly instead of giving a communal punishment, I don't think I'll have any problem with what he's doing. And beside again, if he is following the law, like take the culprits to court instead of destroying their property, let the court decide what to be done with the machines. I don't have any problem with him cracking on those who are doing it in the wrong way. But I have a problem when he's hurting innocent people who are ready to do this business in a genuine way, and they have licenses from the county government, and they are ready to comply, and they are always asking him, can you tell us exactly where the problem is?
All right, tell me something, because obviously from where you sit and listening to you, you're saying is what the government lacks is proper regulation for this industry. When you get a sit-in with the president, with the cabinet secretary Fred Matiang'i, what will be your proposals, and what areas of regulation are you focusing on that do not exist right now?
One is the location where one is supposed to place the machine, because the machine is not supposed to be anywhere near a learning institution, near a church, near a mosque. And beside again, we cannot have machines everywhere. We really need to regulate the number of machines per area. And beside again, if there is anything that the national government feels that they also need to have, or maybe some revenues also be collected, I think that can be implemented. But having proper regulations means knowing what time these machines should operate, which area they should be put, not everywhere, and actually working with those people who are ready to work with him. And the other things that following, like protection of the underage and the people who have, and the vulnerable groups actually at the same time. I think for me, if that can be done, this is a very easy small issue to settle, instead of blowing it out of proportion and doing illegality and unlawful things by destroying properties of petitioners who have a case in court. That really does not augur well.
Tell me something. You want to have a sit down with the cabinet secretary, but you have already taken the government to court. Does that show good faith on your end?
Honestly speaking, even before we took the government to court, we actually tried in all ways, to be heard, because we needed to be treated equally and to be given an opportunity to operate this business that is allowed by our constitution. But it all happened in vain. We did not manage. And in the process, there was that order that was given out to crack down everybody. Having members of my society who had licenses from the county government and they were ready to comply, the only other option for us was to seek the protection of the court so that this thing can be sorted. But the way I'm saying, we've been ready and we are ready. And I don't think the court allows for arbitration, and I think these issues can be sorted out. People don't necessarily need to fight. Yes.
Let's talk about internal self-regulation, particularly on your part, because it's one point, for government to introduce regulations to this industry, which is booming, by the way. But then internal self-regulation from your end, what are you doing to root out this? Because what the government is doing in reaction is to destroy these gambling machines operating illegally. But from your end as operators, what are you doing to root out these bad elements within your ranks?
We have, actually this is the problem, because you have tried to work initially, like you have somebody putting the machine outside and kids are playing. Obviously, if you put it outside, it's not a good thing. And in so many instances, we have even tried to call the local security officers to tell them, remember I have quite a number of residents calling even as far as Kisii and telling them, somebody is telling me there's some machines there. And I think if, for example, the government would decide to work with those who are ready to be regulated, I think the county and the national government can work together to ensure this happens. I think those people will be the ones to ensure in their areas, there are no illegal operators. Yes.
With this accusation or general feeling that these gamings and betting firms have been holding government hostage. Obviously, you remember the 35% taxation for betting firms, of course, being introduced by government, and betting firms really saying we're going to exit this country. But you're going to other countries like the United Kingdom, that is what they're being taxed. Are gaming firms and betting firms holding the government hostage?
Honestly speaking, as I said initially, our fear also is that maybe for them, maybe they're happy that we are being pulled out of the market because competition, obviously. And I think also the same
You're saying
time,
the betting firms?
What I'm trying to say that the other people are happy that we're being pushed, because for them is more business, less competition and more business. But I also think at the same time also the government need to be independent. The way you say it, I also feel the same. And that the government need to be independent, and the regulator must always be able to act without really favoring any area and looking at this field, you know, in a way that they are able to put the regulations without any fear of intimidation from anybody or any other kind of thing like that. But for me, I tend to think the government really need to do quite a number of things to make sure that we have a level playing field, that you know, when the threats and intimidations are coming, obviously you can always tell what we are really going through and what is happening outside there. Yes.
Have you tried to engage the legislature in terms of helping you, particularly on the part of ensuring that the law is favorable to betting, particularly responsible betting?
Yeah, actually we are really pushing right now. I think we are lucky that the committee will give us a hearing. We want to give contribution at every stage, so that when we're going to amend the new act, that the inclusion of every Kenyan that you know, is going to be included, who is ready to do the business in a proper way.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, as we wind up, there's so many people, Kenyans watching you, and still they don't get the sense of betting, and particularly this gaming. Not obviously from the part of those of you that are doing it legally, but because of what they've been subjected to and their children have been subjected to in these corners of the streets. What would you want to tell Kenyans on that count?
What I want to say is that, you know, sometimes there is this, you know, unfair profiling of a certain business, and it's given that name, and actually some people really end up developing a very negative attitude. The truth of the matter is that these are innocent Kenyans, they are innocent Kenyans in the same industry who are ready to conform with any requirements, and these Kenyans are not allowing children, and actually for them is better than the online thing and so on and so forth. Yeah. Because when somebody is on the phone, you will not know what they are doing with their phone betting. And for us, it's physical. And given a chance, this is one industry that can create employment. With a very small number of machines, it can create employment for over 200,000 Kenyans, the youth especially, and it can generate revenue to the national and the county government, and help also to reduce crime in our country.
All right. Do I wish you all the best?
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And of course, I hope the Cabinet Secretary is watching. Obviously, this evening had spoken to the Cabinet, the Chief Administrative Secretary, Patrick Olen Tutu, and I'm sure he's watching the conversation. But obviously, again, at least from your admission, there are facets of this gaming that is illegal, and that is what you intend also to root out as stakeholders in this particular sector. It's got an interesting conversation, and we'll be watching, looking forward, and of course wish you the best again to see whether you secure that meeting with the Cabinet Secretary, Fred Matiang'i. Right about now, just hold tight. The government is pumping more financial resources to vocational training as it seeks to equip learners with necessary skills to face the job market. Public Service Cabinet Secretary Margaret Kobia says the plan to be executed through the National Industrial Training Authority will make use of technical, vocational education and training as a vehicle for socio-economic and technological development.
Youth unemployment in Kenya has been described as a ticking time bomb, with up to 34% of youth struggling to acquire a decent job. A state of affairs that has been aggravated by limited skilled labor, with most graduates entering the labor market every year lacking necessary skills to meet the demands of the job market.
Assessment that has been carried out is that as much as people have, youth have, basic educational qualifications, there's a serious mismatch between what the industry offers and the skills that is available, and that's where this program is now bridging by placing, youth institutions that will have relevance to the industry.
The Kenya Youth Unemployment and Opportunities Project that commenced last year is seeking to resolve the skills gap by training some 280,000 youth drawn from across the country by the year 2021 through sector-specific life, core business and entrepreneurship skills that enhance their employability.
This program gives people the relevant skills to be able to enable them to have a job. Therefore, what I would urge Kenyans is to start attaching a lot of importance on vocational training, because that's where the jobs are. I can therefore, for me, is for Kenyans to change their attitude that although we are pursuing university education, we need a training and a vocation training, entrepreneurship that can be able to promise a job.
The project that is being implemented in partnership with the Ministry of Labour and that of Industrialization through the National Industrial Training Authority will see unemployed youth go through a 3-month training program followed by a 3-month job internships, after which they will be certified for acquired skills.
We are currently in the second cycle of the project, having made a call for youth for Cycle 2 made on 5th June 2018. A total number of 39,122 applications were received by close of 15 June 2018. Of these, we will be taking about 10,555 for skills training, grants to start small businesses, and the business development services.
A total of 2,576 youth have already gone through the program, with an additional 1,069 youth having received a 40,000 shillings grant each to start their small business. Development of the Kenya Labour Market Information System is also underway, which seeks to link job seekers to potential employers. Caroline Kamar reporting for Channel 1 NewsHour.